All right, you ready to get started?
Let's go.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Plagamire. I'm the executive director of a thing called the National Cybersecurity Alliance. Let me share my screen. There we go. Can you all see that?
Beautiful.
I'm seeing the right thing. Wait a minute. I'm not getting. Nope. I think you're seeing the wrong screen.
Is it about us?
Yeah, but it would have showed up in there. It didn't look like the right thing.
Sure.
No, that's not.
Hello,
right.
Lisa Kelly from Foodshed Alliance.
All right. What's going wrong here? So did you, when I shared it then, what did you see?
Did anybody see? I didn't see anything. Did anybody see anything?
No.
You did.
You should be sharing screen too.
Hi, Don. We're just
Hi,
getting
Lauren.
ready.
Are you looking at, what do you see now?
About us.
Empower a more
community.
secure and interconnected world.
Okay, good. All right. And that's on the, you're seeing the not the presenter's view, you're seeing the audience view.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Then we're good. Okay, so chances are you've never heard of us. We're a nonprofit that's partially grant funded by the Department of Homeland Security, a division called the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. The head of CISA was on 60 Minutes a couple weeks ago. That might ring a bell. But otherwise, the only thing that we're really known for that hits the media at all is Cybersecurity Awareness Month every October. So we're a nonprofit that's been around as long as CISA has been around. After 9/11, when CISA was started, then they also started Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So we were co-founders of that along with them. We kind of think of ourselves as the marketing department for DHS. Like we can do things they can't to talk to the American public and to work with companies in the private sector to get the word out about cybersecurity and how to protect yourself and your organization. So that's our mission statement that you're looking at right now. Very plainly, we empower a more secure, interconnected world. Cybersecurity Awareness Month is every October. We have a thing called Cybersecure My Business, which is for small and medium-sized businesses to learn how to protect themselves. We participate in something called Identity Management Day every year. And then every January, there's a thing called Data Privacy Week. And we do a lot of work for that as well. We get about 2 million page views at our website every year, starting a brand new website in the next month it'll launch. Our URL is staysafeonline.org, and we have tons of free information out there to help people, whether you're our age, my age, and you have aging parents that are clicking on things they shouldn't, or you have kids that are doing things with technology they shouldn't, that leave them at risk or for fraud or other issues, then we have tons and tons of information out there to help. So I'm going to talk to you today about a bunch of BS about cybersecurity, the BS being behavioral science. So not this kind of science, but this kind of science. This is the behavioral science model. And what this says is that you have to have every one of these things, the capability, the motivation, and the opportunity before you actually do something. So I have to know how to do something. I have to have, time to do it, or opportunity. And I also have to want to, I have to be motivated. And that motivation piece is the hardest piece. That's the emotional part of this. If this stuff was easy, I'd probably weigh 20 pounds less and my garage would be clean. And so, for example, I know how to clean my garage. I'm capable. I have the opportunity. I don't make plans on Saturday, but I am not motivated at all. And so it's probably not gonna get done. So using, we worked with a company in the UK called CybeSafe, who really leans into this behavioral science model of cybersecurity. And we surveyed 1,000 people in the US and 1,000 people in the UK about these 6 core behaviors. And I think a lot of people think that security is, hackers and hoodies and a lot of wuzza and nobody really understands what happens. But the reality is there's these, if you do these 6 things, then that can make a massive, massive difference. If we all did these 6 things, it would make a massive difference in global cybercrime. So the first one is just around passwords. Second, applying multi-factor authentication. installing updates and patches to your computer. In other words, keeping your software up to date, checking for phishing, being able to recognize it and report it, and then keeping your data backed up. So like I said, the motivational piece is kind of the hardest piece of trying to start a new habit or exhibit a new behavior. My background is actually in sales and marketing. I started my career with Ford Motor Company a long time ago in marketing. And one of my favorite advertising gurus is Seth Godin. He's got a website out there and a bunch of books, and he's a real smart guy. And this is my favorite quote from him. People are irrational and they usually make decisions that have nothing to do with facts. And yet we spend most of our time improving our facts and very little concerned with the rest. So if you think about any organization you've ever worked for that's told you need to take annual compliance training, maybe it talked about things like phishing and company policies, organizational policies around avoiding those things and keeping data secure. I'm sure it was factually all very correct, but it might not have made you want to change any of your behavior or cause you to do anything that really helped protect yourself or protect your organization. So that's why we're going to talk a little bit about feelings and emotions today when it comes to cybersecurity. So I'm going to go over some of the questions that we asked in the survey, and then if the polling function will work, we'll be asking you guys the same questions. So the first one is just how you feel about this statement. If you want to bring up the poll, Lauren. Staying secure online is important to me. Do you disagree or agree with this statement? Go ahead and click your answer there. Lauren, can you see if people are answering? Yeah, good. Okay. When we think we have enough folks, then go ahead and close it, and we can see how you guys compare to the people in our study.
It looks like, Lisa, we have from strongly disagree to strongly agree and nothing in between.
If you hit if you close the poll, then it should display the results.
Here we go.
There we go. Well, we still have the majority of people, 63%, saying that they agree with that, which is not unlike our folks in the US and the UK, right? Exact same number, 63% said that they strongly agree with us. So then we're going to do another poll question.
Yeah, I made a mistake on that. I meant to put strongly agree. E and I did strongly disagree by mistake. So let's know.
Okay, I won't hold it against you.
I did the same thing, John. I'm sorry to mess up your results.
That's okay. This is for you guys to think about more than anything else. I prioritize staying secure online, right? The first question was about whether or not you say it's important to you. If you want to bring up the next poll, I prioritize staying secure online. How do you feel about that one? And as the answers come in, then Lauren, feel free to share the results so that everybody can see them.
So it ranges from neither agree nor disagree to somewhat agree to strong agree.
Okay. Do you want to publish? So you should share the results so everybody can see.
Here we go.
There we are. Okay. So nobody said that they disagree at all with that statement that they prioritize it. 75% of you said that you strongly agree with it. That's not dissimilar to what the general public said. If you add up those two columns on the right, you've got 76% that agree or strongly agree. So unfortunately, even though we say we prioritize this stuff, this doesn't always translate into our behavior, as we'll see in a minute. Note one more poll question. How confident do you feel about your ability to identify a malicious or illegitimate email or link from a cyber criminal. So a URL that doesn't look quite right, a phishing email, it could be a text. How confident are you that you can actually recognize these things on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being very confident. And Lauren, go ahead and share the results when we have a few people, enough people have voted.
All right, here we go.
So looks like the most popular answer is around the 7 range, 7, 8, 9. People feel relatively confident. That's about the same as the public here. The public felt a little more confident than you guys do. I think a lot of people when I talk to people of working age, I think a lot of us, very few of us feel like we're a 10, right? That we're very, very confident because we know how tricky these things can be. Our survey included people from students all the way to retirees. So why is it that the reality is that the most data breaches that have happened in the news have all started with a phishing email. So every single one of these were some of the giant breaches that have happened in the last 5 or 10 years. They all started with the humble phishing email. So why is there this disconnect between how confident we are about these things and the fact that this is how a lot of bad things start? So we attribute this to a thing called the Dunning-Kruger Effect. And it's a cognitive bias that won the Nobel Prize for Psychology in 2000 from 2 guys named Dunning and Kruger. And basically it just says that, I think there's a Dilbert too that says what I don't know must be easy, right? Like when you start to learn a little bit about these things, then you're like, yeah, I got this, I'm all good, right? That's called the peak of ignorance. The more we learn about something, we go through this valley of despair, up the slope of enlightenment. And then eventually you get to this point where you know what you don't know. And if you think about talking to like maybe a physician or a university professor or somebody who's been in their job for 30 years and they're kind of at the pinnacle of their field, very often they'll kind of joke that there's still so much they don't know because things are complicated. Just to give you an idea of how complicated phishing has gotten, I used to work at a company that had car dealers as customers, 35,000 car dealers in the world. And this was a phishing email that came in back in 2018. It came directly from the email box of a chief financial officer of a car dealership. It was sent to one of our salespeople. And it looks like a DocuSign. It looks a lot like a DocuSign. In fact, the only way you'd know that this isn't an actual DocuSign email is that a real DocuSign email has a serial number on it. And I didn't even know that until I went to the DocuSign website where it explains that their emails have serial numbers. But since then, actually, my aunt was scammed a couple weeks ago and I looked at the email that she was sent and it actually had a fake serial number on it. So it was a fake DocuSign with a fake serial number. So the bad guys have gotten even better. So our salesperson got this. Our salesperson was expecting to close a deal with this particular CFO. And of course he clicked on it. Why wouldn't you? You're a salesperson. It's a DocuSign. Like I'm going to click on that all day long. So, so I talked to him about that. I just asked, was he expecting a DocuSign from this particular CFO? And he was not. And so that might have been like the only thing besides that missing serial number that would have been the giveaway to him to maybe pick up the phone, call the CFO, not at the number in the email, but call it, the number that he knows to be that guy's number and ask him, hey, is this DocuSign from you? But it's gotten really, really sophisticated. And luckily in our environment, we had some technical measures in place so that even when he clicked on it, it prevented something really bad from happening. But we were a company with 500 million social security numbers in our database. And so, had we not had the right technical protections in place, Had the malware been something that our technology was not familiar with, or could have detected, then something bad could have happened. This could have started a chain of events. The reality is that the car dealer had this CFO had his email box compromised and didn't know it. So in other words, there's a bad guy in his email, reading all his emails and sending, having business context for what was going on, and then using that CFO's email to send out phishing emails to customers and partners and things like that. So, that dealership had no idea that their system had been compromised. The CFO had no idea that somebody was in there, because the bad guy will sit in there and redirect some incoming emails. And then as he or she sends emails out, malicious ones, they'll delete those from sent mail. And so, I don't think the CFO had any sort of clue that there was somebody actually also using his email aside from him. So sometimes, we talk about things like the sender address looking weird, or maybe there's a link in there, and if I hover over it, the URL doesn't look quite right. And all those things are good things to look for, but at the end of the day, you also need to kind of have some spidey senses. Like if something just doesn't look right, then maybe pick up the phone and call the person. So we asked people about checking and reporting for phishing, right? 51% said that they always check to make sure that an email is legit. I'm not sure if I'm excited that 51% do that, or disappointed that only 51% do that. It's kind of a, we'll see if we can get that number to go up in the next couple of years. 22% always report it. And that's a really low number on the reporting side. When we ask why only 22% report it, 28% said it's just not a priority for them, and another 28% said they don't know how. A lot of organizations have one-click phishing buttons that they use. For those of us who use Gmail recently added, and it's just a little screenshot of a Gmail. Up in this corner here, you see the three little dots. And this is a really bad image, but it's as good as I could get. They've added this report phishing that's right under the report spam. When I asked Google why they're not doing more to promote this, to get more people to report, they said they don't want you to dwell on the fact that a fish got through their security filters. So they're afraid that's a bad reflection on them. But reporting is actually really important, especially to a platform as big as Gmail that a lot of us use in our personal lives. When they start to see enough trends on phishing, when they start to see, the IP addresses that these things come from, when they start to see, it's all big data solutions, right? They're all looking at the data and at trends and at IP addresses that might be associated with fish that are also associated with maybe like a known ransomware gang or something like that. That all gets reported to law enforcement, and the FBI and the Secret Service don't have enough resources to deal with the cybercrime issues and all the fraud that happens. So they look at the data, and when they see a bad actor that's actually doing a lot of damage, then that's where they're going to put their resources, right? They're going to tackle the biggest problems first. So it really is important to report these things. So a little bit about behaviors. We asked people about passwords, and I'm going to ask you guys the same question if you want to start the poll, Lauren. What is your preferred method of remembering passwords? You write them down in a notebook, store them in your phone or in your email. I just remember them without writing them down. I save them in the browser, or I use a password manager application. Go ahead and tell me which one you use the most. What's your preferred method of remembering passwords? And then we'll take a look at the results and we'll see how you guys fared with the American public. Incidentally, the report that we did, the survey, there was really no statistical differences between the US and the UK. And this year, we're going to expand it hopefully to the Five Eyes, so Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and maybe Europe if we get one throat to choke over there, because I don't have the staff to talk to every country in the European community. But All right, how's that looking, Lauren? Okay, so 38% of you said that you write them down in a notebook. Likewise, 38% store them in the phone or email. 25% use a password manager application. Nobody said they just remember them, which is good. So let's see how that compares to everybody else. So pretty close there on the, well, I take that back. A lot of people in our survey said they write them down in a notebook. So 31%, that was the most popular answer. 26% said they just remember them. If that's the case, then I doubt those people are using actually totally unique passwords for every one of their accounts, because that's almost humanly impossible, I think. 28% said they store them in their phone. Only 12% said they use a password manager application, which is actually the best answer on here. We asked people how often, did we do a poll for this one? Yeah, we asked people how often they use different passwords for different online accounts. So by that, I mean like really different, not just you change one digit at the end, like you change the number on the end of an account or something like that, but a completely unique password for every one of your accounts. And you might think this is only important for like financial services, but it's actually important for email and social media and really any account that if you lost control of it, it would, somebody could use it to do harm to somebody else, right? So if somebody got control of your Facebook, for example, then they use that to defraud somebody else. Do we have answers for this one? Did I do a poll for this one? Yeah, there we go. So this is pretty good. 33% of you said always, 33% very often, and then 17% rarely and sometimes. So you guys are actually smarter than your average bear. You're smarter than the people that answered our survey. Only 20% said that they very often or always do this. 47% said never or rarely. And that's kind of frightening. So who remembers when the Yahoo breach happened? That kind of made the news a while back, right? I really didn't understand until I started working in security why it mattered that I use different passwords for everything. So when that Yahoo breach happened, my reaction was like, yeah, who cares, right? Like everybody had a Yahoo account back in the day, along with our AOL dial-up. And like, I haven't used that account in a million years. There's nothing of mine in there that is of any interest or value. Like if somebody has my credentials, my user ID and password to that Yahoo account, like I don't care, have at it, right? The problem is that bad guys take those credentials, those user IDs and passwords, and they use them to break into other accounts because they know that we tend to recycle our passwords. And I think the problem's gotten even worse since the Yahoo breach, because now the rules for all the passwords have gotten really, really complex, right? So when you go to create a new account somewhere and it tells you, oh, it's got to be 12 or 16 digits, and it's got to have uppercase and lowercase and numbers and special characters, and but it can't have an underscore or whatever stupid thing it is, right? Those things have gotten so complex that a lot of us think of a password that actually fulfills all those things. That's also something we can remember. And so then because we fell in love with, like, I finally found something that meets all the rules, what do? We use it over and over and over again on a bunch of different accounts. And the bad guys just know that this is a bad human habit. And so they've written software, they've written scripts to take they don't even have to know where my accounts are. They just take those Yahoo credentials, and through automated technology, they're just bouncing them off of every different account they can possibly find, in hopes that they're going to be able to get into something. So we are big fans of password managers at the NCA. When we asked people why they didn't use password managers, they said that the most popular answer here, 37%, said that I don't trust any single provider with managing all my passwords. I think there's a big fear of putting them all in a vault and then just having one password protect all those things. So these are all the leading password manager companies. They all have multi-factor authentication, meaning if somebody were to steal the password to your password manager, unless they also had your phone or access to your email, they wouldn't be able to get in to that account. So that's another reason why multi-factor authentication is so important. We'll talk some more about that in a minute. But these are great for organization use. They're great for family use. My family uses LastPass. We're kind of transitioning to Bitwarden because their code is open source. They're a little more transparent. But they all use things like zero knowledge architecture, which means even the people working at these companies, the software developers and everybody, they can't see the passwords. They use strong encryption. So until quantum computing is a thing, there's really no way to decrypt your passwords. They include dark web monitoring. So if your credentials are for sale on the ugly underworld of cybersecurity, then they will tell you, they'll alert you that you're using a password that's been spotted for sale on the dark web. Yeah, they're generally really handy. They're great for sharing passwords amongst your family. So in order for us to, for example, convince our kids that they needed to use a password manager, when they went away to college and wanted the Netflix password, we just made sure to change the Netflix password. And so when they called and said, hey, I need the Netflix password, we said, well, it's in LastPass. You just have to activate that account, that link that we sent you to get an account. So this can be a little bit hard to set up initially, or I think people think it's hard, but the reality is if you install one of these on your browser and as you visit accounts, you can just click add, and there's really not a lot of work to do. So as I said, multi-factor authentication is another really important thing. So this combines something that you know, like your password, with something like you have or something that you are, meaning like your fingerprint or a PIN number from your phone, or an iris scan, any of those types of things. And this literally just means that you have to prove your you in multiple ways, two ways or more. So as I said, if somebody's got your password to an account, but you've got MFA enabled, they won't be able to get in with just your password. So this is really, really, really important. I would go so far as to say that if you're using a financial institution or a bank or an investment company of some kind and they don't have multi-factor authentication, get a different bank. Like this is really, really that important. So another poll question. Do we have this one set up, Lauren? I think, yeah. Have you ever applied multi-factor authentication to any of your online accounts holding personal information? So that could be anything, financial institution, email, anything like this. Have you ever applied it? Do you know what it is and do you use it? So when we get enough answers, go ahead and display the results. So this is one of my favorite questions because a lot of people use this, which is great. 88% of you said yes, you use MFA. So when we asked the general public, we also asked them if they're still using it. 48% said they had never heard of it, but of the 52 who heard of it, who knew what it was, 81% said they applied it at least once. 90% of them said they're still using it. I think this is one of those things where once you've established the habit, it's a lot easier to keep it going. So that's really good news. A quick word about victims and reporting. 44% of millennials say they've been the victim of cybercrime at least once. When they get popped, it's for pretty small dollar amounts because they don't have a lot of assets, but they are very quick to click on things. On the other side of the spectrum, 79% of baby boomers said they had never been a victim of cybercrime, but the people who have been victimized get victimized for much higher dollar amounts. Think of things like romance scams and things like that, where people get defrauded of sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not a good situation. So if something like this happens to you or one of your loved ones, there's a couple different organizations out there that are really good to know about. One of them is the Cybercrime Support Network. They're working with every state in the country and their 311 infrastructure to use that to report cybercrime, because a lot of people just don't know where to report. Like if it's your place of business, you can call the FBI or the Secret Service, but do you call the police when something bad happens like this? It's kind of hard to know. And then if you've been the victim of identity theft, there's two different really good websites out there, identitytheft.gov and the Identity Theft Resource Center. They even have like a checklist that you work through to make sure you've done everything you need to do to clean that up. If somebody knows your social security number or has a driver's license with their picture on it, things like that, they help you sort that all out. And those are really handy, because in the moment it can be really confusing what you need to do. So last couple questions here, I'm going to ask you about some feelings. I find cybersecurity intimidating. Do you disagree or agree with this statement? I find cybersecurity intimidating. Let me know what you think. And then we'll have some time for questions if you guys have any questions at the end. So how's this looking, Lauren? So do you find it intimidating? 25% of you somewhat disagree, 13% neutral, but 63% either strongly agree or somewhat agree with that statement. And that's not dissimilar to what we had here. If you add up the agree and strongly agree, 41% say that they feel intimidated by cybersecurity. I think it's because of this guy. He shows up all over the place. In fact, sometimes when I'm doing interviews with a TV journalist, I can just imagine that when they play the tape at the 6 o'clock news for the 30 seconds of me as a talking head, that they're going to overlay my voice with a picture of this guy or some close-up of fingers on keyboard or binary floating around the screen or something else that just looks intimidating and doesn't mean anything to most of us. So I think the imagery that we've come to associate with hackers and bad guys has actually led us to be really intimidated by something that really is not that complicated at our level, at kind of the general like user of technology level. So likewise, this question, do you find staying secure online frustrating? Do you agree or disagree with this statement? Do you find it frustrating? I know when MFA first came out, a lot of people would moan and groan that they'd have to go find their phone if they wanted to log on to their bank account when they were sitting at their desk, things like that. I think we've all gotten over the hump on MFA. We realize that it's not that big an inconvenience to go get a PIN number off your phone or out of your email. So here's the results for that one. Most of you feel pretty neutral about this. You don't necessarily find it frustrating. 50% neutral and 38% that agree. The general public feels a little more frustrated and they feel a little bit like this. I think a lot of people, particularly that work in large organizations like financial services, find that the security that their company has can be really frustrating. It can get in the way of them doing their jobs. So just a quick recap on some of these easy behaviors. Just simple things you can do that make a huge difference in protecting yourself and your organization. Report phishing and really anything that just doesn't look right. Use long, unique passwords that are really unique for every one of your accounts. And that usually means using a password manager. And then be sure to keep using multi-factor authentication. That's really important. And reporting cybercrime and any other kinds of fraud. So I don't want people to feel frustrated or intimidated. I want people to feel like this. I want you to feel empowered. When you see those pictures of the hackers in the hoodies on the 6 o'clock news or in the movies, just know that there's some basic ways you can completely foil their attempts. I think we have, instead of the hacker in the hoodie, I would like people to think of the digital future as being very bright. The internet was never designed to be secure. And so it's kind of been used in ways that I don't think anybody really anticipated. And so we're kind of chasing after it with new technology to make it more secure, but hopefully we'll have a brighter future than some of the issues that we've dealt with in the past, and we can all have peace of mind when it comes to doing some of these things. So instead of telling you that you should be very, very afraid, and so that's why you should do things, my advice is that you'll feel better once you've done some of these things, right? You'll have more peace of mind if you do things like start using a password manager. So that's it for me. We have time for some questions, I think, Lauren?
Yes.
Yeah. Let me see. I can't see the chat. So you'll have to tell me if there's any questions on your side.
No questions so far, Lisa.
No. We have, if you're dealing with, like I am, aging relatives who are having issues with technology, we have a series on our YouTube channel called Mom Don't Click That, which is a series of interviews with older folks. And it really gives you a lot of empathy for some of their stories and how they struggle with technology and staying secure and not having somebody take over things like their Facebook account or their email. And then we also have a whole bunch of other material. If you've got young children, we've got a bunch of tips for kind of back to school type security tips for, maybe you're getting a young person their first cell phone or things like that, like how to secure those things. We have a page on our site that's all about security and privacy settings. I think a lot of us feel a little frustrated about how our data is getting used by some of the big platforms, particularly social media. And it can be hard to find the places where you need to go in the settings to tweak your privacy and security settings so that you're not sharing your location with everybody under the sun and things like that. We have a page on our website that has links to all of those, so you don't have to hunt those down one by one. No questions? Everybody's feeling very safe and secure? Good. That's good. All right.
Thank you.
Feel free to reach out to me if you think of anything, or you can email us at info@staysafeonline.org. We answer all the questions that we get.
Lisa, this is Lisa Kelly from the Foodshed Alliance. Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to mention that we've had some of this come across our desk, and the phishing is getting more and more sophisticated and harder to really spot.
Yep.
What I have found the key is to really examine the open up the heading of the email as much as you can,
The header.
and the header, and really look at the the from.
The sender address.
Who is the sender?
Yeah.
And also, if you can, find the reply to, because a lot of times what they'll do is the sender will be legitimate, like who you think it's from. It's not from that person, but they've bogused it enough that it looks like it's coming from somebody real. But when you look at the reply to field, it's to a completely different address. And that's always been, that's harder to spot. You have to really spend some time and kind of sleuth around and say, would Facebook really be sending us this, or would they really be wording it this way? And if anything sounds a little suspicious, just assume it's bogus.
Yeah, that's really good advice. It used to be the Nigerian prince, and it had like all these misspellings in it. And if it had graphics, they were really bad. And it used to be super obvious. And we're not talking about like just one person trying to trick us. We're talking about organized crime. So they've gotten smart enough now that they've hired graphic artists, they've hired native speakers of English, they use real logos, they, you know, they will even put up, not just send you the phishing email, but they'll also put up a web page that if you click through the phishing email to maybe, you know, the link, or click on the logo, maybe it's fake Amazon email, they'll build a web page. It looks just like Amazon's homepage. So you can't even really tell, unless you look at the URL, you know, that that's not really Amazon that emailed you, or Walmart, or whoever. I used to work for ADP, the big payroll processor, and we were one of the most phished names in the business, right? Everybody, all the bad guys like to send emails that said, you know, your ADP pay stub is ready. It's really hard. Big brands get dragged through the mud, and there's not a ton that they can do to keep somebody from using their logo, for example.
Yeah, we're a tiny nonprofit, and the latest one that really floored me was it looked like an employee sent an email to our executive director saying, I need to change the bank for my direct deposit.
Yep.
So the executive director, because I handle the ADP processing, forwarded me the email, you know, copied the employee and said, you know, Lisa handles this, Lisa will tell you what she needs. And immediately I get an email from luckily it was a reply all, because I got an employee from an email from the employee, which floored me, because she said, I didn't send this. And I replied saying, okay, I need this and I need that and I need this. No information was exchanged, but I was just asking for the right information. And that's when the employee said, I didn't send it. And I was floored. And that wasn't until we started looking, and that's where I saw, because I was like, well, if it was only between the employee and the executive director, how is the bad guy going to get it? And that's where I saw the reply to was the bogus, and that she replied with the correct information. There it was.
Yep. Unfortunately, it happens way too often. Yeah, we're a tiny little nonprofit as well, and Proofpoint, who does email security, is on our board, and so they've agreed to give us their solution for free, which is really fantastic, because having filtering in place that helps to filter all that stuff out, but nothing is foolproof, so something's always going to get through. Yeah.
So how accurate or how good do you feel the browser saving your passwords is? Because you kind of went over that quickly.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that, because if anybody gets access to your phone or your laptop, then they've got your passwords. And that you might think, oh, well, that's not going to happen. But especially on phones, we had a case here in Austin of organized crime stealing people's phones, and then people were leaving themselves signed in on Venmo. And so their bank accounts were getting wiped out, because as soon as they got a hold of these people's phones, they were able to just go to their Venmo account and empty out their bank. So I'm not a fan of anything that relies on that has as its only deterrent physical access to your piece of equipment. Plus, it's just a lot harder to use. Like, say you go to a hotel and you sign on to a computer there, or in the lobby in the business center or something like that. It's not as flexible as using a password manager. Yeah, I know it's a relatively common thing. A lot of people like to do it, but it's not as secure as a password manager.
And keeping your passwords in a document, a Word document really on your computer.
That's really bad. Yeah, even if it's a password protected document, those passwords tend to be pretty short and easy to hack. Email is not secure. It just isn't. Somebody could be in your email box and you might not recognize that they're in there. So that's the first thing they're going to look for is like, gee, do you email yourself your passwords, or have you emailed passwords to other people? Yeah. No, I'm not. Believe me, because I used to try all those things before I worked in security, just to try and keep track of it all. And then finally it got to be so much. There's just so many different accounts that we all have that it's crazy to try and keep track of it any other way, especially when you've got accounts that you share with like your kids or your spouse or something like that.
Do you have a best practices recommendation on what an organization with multiple employees, how they should keep track of all the work email or work passwords?
Yeah, you can get LastPass and all those that were on that slide. You can buy those for an organization's use. So we use in our organization, our nonprofit, we use LastPass, and that way, like if we have a shared account that we all use, then I can just install that on my browser, and we can all share those credentials without anything needing to fly across Slack or email or anything else. But they all have, I mean, there's large enterprises that use those all the way down to small organizations like ours. We only have 5 users.
So if everybody has their own, I don't know, Google account but they use it for work, or their own, I don't know, Canva account, through that LastPass, organizational LastPass, everybody can have their own Canva account.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, essentially everybody has their own LastPass account, but then when you've got credentials that you all want to share, you use LastPass to share them. So you can do both. You can have your own accounts in there, and you can have shared accounts in there. You can have shared folders or your own individual folder.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, sure. All right, everybody, I'm going to let you go. This has been great today. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right, have a good day.